All right, everybody, welcome to Kobe's Planet. We're coming at you today with a very special episode on this fine Sunday afternoon. We're missing football. In studio, I have three very special guests, friends of mine, all three professional fighters. We have Randa Markos, Kyle Prepolec, and Blake Nash. First, I'm going to start off talking to Randa, who recently won a huge fight against Tecia Torres on her quest for the first ever strawweight women's bantam championship for the Ultimate Fighter. Now, Randa, last time we met was under much different circumstances. At MTC, we had the interview for the Justine Kish fight. You were lobbying to get on the show. Here we are today. You're an Ultimate Fighter contestant. I'm a gigantic TV star, so we've sort of both made it, if you will. Since then, after the Justine Kish fight, which was a tough fight, it was sort of a win-win for you. You gave yourself an opportunity to win with the grappling. You bounced back right away. You got back in there for another tough fight. You won, and you also secured yourself, I believe, your first title. Do you think that situation and that fight were the things that propelled you to actually getting on the list of contestants, as you were lobbying to get on, but at first they weren't taking, and then after that, I think that maybe propelled you into the show? Do you think that that's the case?
Actually, it's funny because all of the feedback I was getting was from my loss with Justine. Like, nobody recognized me from any of my other fights. They recognized me from my heart and my drive to continue on with my fight with Justine, even though I had a huge split lip and a split eyebrow. So they all recognized me through that fight, and I thought that was kind of weird. You know, I've had a bunch of fights before that, and then I had a title fight after that, and it was funny because everybody was just focusing on that loss. And again, sometimes losses, good things come from them. You fought a Muay Thai champion, and in the stand-up situation, certainly held your own. And as I said, you gave yourself an opportunity to win, definitely on the ground. So what a wonderful job you did, showing heart and determination in that fight. I know Invicta was something that you were lobbying to maybe to get onto, and you've kind of got to skip that and go right to the UFC. The Ultimate Fighter, people started to talk about lack of viewers and maybe the show have running its course. So the UFC had this creative idea to crown a first ever champion and another women's division after the women's sort of broke onto the scene, and everyone's kind of taken to this, putting on awesome fights, and here you are in a position not only to get a UFC contract, but to be a champion. What do you think about the show as a whole and the platform that they've took, crowning a champion, and the opportunity you have, not just getting into the UFC and then not having to climb the ladder, but to actually, be next to, say, a Ronda Rousey and actually hold a belt? I think it's great the way they set it up. I mean, we are the best in the world, and we're finally getting an opportunity to get a spot in the UFC. They're entering a new weight class, the 115-pound weight class, and it was great to put a bunch of women who have been around for a long time and put us all in a house and compete for a belt and not just for a spot in the UFC. It made sense to me. We are all the best, and we're going to go in the house. We win in the house. We fought each other, and it only makes sense to crown a champion out of us. I would agree, and it looks to be a great start. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Tecia Torres fight. Interesting situation. I believe she was picked 3rd. You were 14th. So it was like you had a little bit of trouble getting your name on the list, even though you were the #1 ranked female in the country, title holder of an organization, and you had a great record. So you fight Tecia Torres and you win this fight, further strengthening the case that you should have been there from the beginning. And what do you think about this whole underdog and them kind of not recognizing you kind of essentially for who you are, given that you won that fight and you made a big statement in that show? Going into the house and then having the rankings, and I was ranked 14, I was kind of like pissed off at the time, like that's all I think of me as, like, number 14, but at the same time they don't know me very well. I haven't fought anybody in Invicta, whereas Tecia Torres has fought a couple people in Invicta and has dominated, and won those fights, and for her to be picked third out of all of us, I think it made sense. But at the same time, just because they didn't know me, ranking me 14, it kind of made sense in a way, but it gave me an opportunity to blow everybody's mind, to show them what I'm capable of, and that rankings don't matter. Going back to the fight itself, and I was watching in between the 2nd and 3rd round,
You were kind of you were laying down, getting yourself together, probably getting ready for another third round. What I seen from Tisha was in between the second and the third round, the camera shifted to her in the corner, and she kind of had her head down, and she looked a little broken. And at that point, I thought you were going to control the third round, based on her body language, that she was either disappointed in herself, tired, or wasn't sure what to expect. I know she had said you were very, very strong, and she didn't expect that. Looking at her physique and stature, and then you looked a little softer, but she stated that you were the much stronger fighter. Did you feel that she had broke at all between rounds 2 and 3, or did she come out with the same strength?
Actually, I noticed she broke in the second round. When I came out the second round, I could tell that she was more hesitant. She wasn't coming at me with her flurries. You know, she was kind of like picking her shots and everything. So right then I was like, all right, this is my fight. You know, there's nothing she can bring to me. And then you can tell that she wasn't prepared for all my takedowns and my groundwork, and she thought she was just going to dominate standing like she always does and take the fight. But I think I shocked her in my groundwork and also my exchanges on my feet. And yeah, and then the third round was mine for taking. That's how I felt going in.
Definitely. In the first round, she stayed active from the bottom, even with the triangle attempt and some of the elbows. You kept your composure, and then she seemed to really slow down in the second and third round. So congratulations, that was a huge victory, no doubt, for yourself. And,
she was very strong. You know, I'm not going to take anything from her. She's very strong, and she was extremely active on the ground. It was very hard for me to control her, whereas most of the time I'm good at controlling somebody on the ground, holding them down there, but she was constantly moving, constantly, you know, I couldn't get mount as easy as I would have in other fights. She was a really tough chick. One
thing that you've shown in all your fights is the strength, your strength on the ground and your wrestling. I do like your stand-up. Those just seem to be the areas where you're stronger. And she said that after the fight. She said, I couldn't believe how strong she was. Your positioning was very, very good, and your grappling, showcasing those skills again. I know that Tone Lam and Phil Navarro were two people that helped you throughout your career. They're currently the grappling coaches at MTC under George Brito. Talk about your grappling, your wrestling base going in and going forward. How those things are your strengths and will play off in future fights.
Yeah, I came from a wrestling background, so jiu-jitsu was kind of easier for me to pick up right away, and I loved it right off the bat. And Toon Lam and Phil Navarro have been with me from the very start. When I first walked in that gym, they told me, you know, you're going to be something big one day. And you know, who knew that I would be in the UFC right now? They've been really dedicated to me and my training and everything, and also the wrestling coaches there, you know, Mike and everyone at MTC. You know, they helped me out through the years, and it's been really good.
Awesome. So Tisha Torres, going forward, do you think even despite the loss, she gets back into the UFC on a different card? She's sort of a marketable kind of look. She seems to be somewhat popular. Do you think she can get back into the show even though she was eliminated?
You know, it could be possible. It's the UFC, and it's for the belt, and you know, anything is possible. We'll see.
Okay, so in the second show, we've seen the little Scottish fireball, JoJo. She won her fight. What did you think about that match?
I think JoJo, you know, became pretty good friends on the show, and she was one of the toughest people, like training partners that I had over there. And yeah, she's a badass, especially her stand-up and her Muay Thai. I thought she had some amazing exchanges. You know, she looks like a tough chick, but she sounds like she's like very, you know, quiet, and you wouldn't expect that from her. And I think she blew people's mind when they saw, you know, this quiet little girl explode on inside the cage.
It must have been tough putting all these personalities in a house and removing the electronic media, televisions, and sort of things to tie you down. You're essentially, you know, interacting all day and night with these people, and some of them you're competing against. Was it tough with all the personalities, different ages, egos, these sorts of things, and getting along and living with strangers essentially?
Definitely, it was the toughest thing I ever did in my life. You know, I mean, when it comes to fighting, you know, you're in the house with the 15 other chicks who are the best in the world, and they're all freaking competitive, and you know, they all want what you want. So it was definitely hard. One of the hardest things about the whole show was just living with these people and putting up with them, and especially the different. Some people have really strong personalities, and it's really hard to get along with. But it makes sense why, you know, some of these fights are not, or the fights in the show are not. They don't count on your record or anything, because it's a completely different environment. It's such a tough environment. There's no way I would ever be in that environment being prepared for a fight for the UFC or whatever. You know, it was just one of the toughest experiences I've ever done, and you definitely come out of that house a lot stronger than you went in.
Last thing I want to touch on is the I read about the Duke Rufus. He came in to provide some coaching. Some of the girls struggled with the constructive criticism and essentially stopping their training and learning, refining techniques at this point. They may have felt, well, we're going to be fighting soon anyway, but there was still, you know, some weeks and time for them to utilize that knowledge that he brings to the table. Some of the girls there, they didn't like that. You were one of the people that had said that you wanted to remain teachable and, you know, accept that help. What kind of like did that bring in terms of like drama, and was that a negative effect on the show going forward for somebody that really could have helped essentially?
Honestly, I didn't like how that everybody spoke for, like, I mean, the three girls spoke for the rest of the team, but you know, the rest of us were kind of quiet, so we kind of just sat back and let them talk, which wasn't right on our part. But I enjoyed listening to everything they had to say. You know, all the technique, all the stuff we need to work on. I'm always looking to fix my technique and my strengths and weaknesses. You know, constantly, and especially getting feedback from somebody like Duke Rufus and Anthony Pettis. Like, who else is, you know, would you want to get feedback from? Like, they're amazing, and there's a reason why Anthony Pettis is the champ, and that's why we need to sit back and listen to what they need to say. And I didn't like how, you know, they were kind of complaining constantly, and it did kind of give us a kind of a negative effect, you know, on all the negative vibes from all the other girls. But you know, they listened to them and they quieted down, and the coaches were more picking and choosing on what they need to tell us to work on.
So lastly then, you know, this being a team-based environment, in some ways you're going to maybe have to be selfish and worry about you for, you know, these types of things, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get to this title fight. Is that correct? Or do you look at it as just being solely a team-based thing?
Honestly, fighting is kind of like a selfish sport, I guess you could say, but you can't get anywhere without the help of people around you, good people and positive people around you, and people who just want to see you succeed. So, you know, in a way, you get in that cage by yourself. I walked in that house by myself. I got in that cage by myself. You know, you gotta, at the end of the day, you gotta make sure that everything's good for you, and that you're doing the right things that are going to get you to where you want to be. But at the same time, there's a lot of help that comes from other people around you.
That's right. Well, thank you, Randa, for your thoughts. We wish you luck.
Thank
Nothing
you so
but
much.
the best with Michigan Top Team and going forward with Tough 20.
Thank you.
Next up, Kyle Prepolec, the man with the small T-shirt and the huge guns.
You know.
Kyle, good friend of mine, getting back in the cage shortly, 7-3 pro. Changing camps is something that we see commonly, you know, with fighters throughout their career. Kind of an old transition for you, coming over from Mateys back in the day when you were kind of this young guy on the scene. Everybody was talking about, you know, Kyle Prepolec being the next big thing in Windsor. You came over from Mateys to MTC. Talk about that transition and why you made that switch.
Well, the whole reason behind it is, you know, after you're so long of training in one spot and you feel like, you know, you're not being nourished in the gym anymore, or you don't have enough people to help you out, and you're not feeling like, you know, yeah, just like the whole help part, and you know, you're not able to grow and you're plateauing.
Yes.
That's the reason I moved, just to, you know, better myself and, you know, find better training partners and, you know, better friends, better family, and that's what I've got all around me now, so that's what I had to do, you know.
Okay, and you know, so being this young gun prior in Windsor, and I would say today now you're a bit of a savvy veteran. You've got 10 pro fights. Do you think you lived up to that hype?
I feel like I can, you know, keep it going, and if not, make it grow more and get to where I have to get to. You know, get to the UFC eventually, and you know, one fight at a time, just dominate and destroy everyone in my division. Humility
is an attribute that I admire in people. You're a guy that I've always found to be very, very humble in the way you carry yourself in and out of the ring, in the cage, in the gym. Do you think that works in your favor? You know, you're certainly a killer when you need to be, but you're a very humble guy. And talk a little bit about being humble and how that has helped you.
Being humble has helped a lot. You know, it helps you grow a lot more. You're willing and able to learn from anyone and everyone, from the least experience to the most experience. And you know, there's so much to go through. You know, it's just like different levels you go through from being humble, right? And then you still got to be confident, though.
That's right.
You can't just be, you know, you have this low self-esteem, low confidence, because then you're going to fight like that. You know, you still have all this high confidence, still being humble and everything. And then when you get in there, it's just a switch, because, you know, you're scared when you get in there, but you're also excited at the same time. It's a roller coaster of everything, and then you just got to go. And then, you know, at the end of the day, it's sport. Everyone's friends there, and, you know, you shake hands, still be humble, and, you know, see if you want to train with them, you know, train with their teams. Go on and learn from everyone as much as you can and grow together.
So you're fighting Tony Hervey?
Yes.
In PFC on October 18th. He's a game opponent. He's owner of over 30 professional fights. He's a guy that's definitely going to bring it. What do we expect to see from Kyle Prepolec on that night?
It's definitely going to be a war. Just like the last one and the one before that, I will always bring it. No matter where it goes, it can go to keep it standing, go to the ground. I'm going to make it as exciting as possible.
There is one thing I do want to ask you on air. I've always wondered about your gigantic cup that you wear. I've grappled with you several times. I remember going sliding off it once. And is this a tactic that you use to demasculate your opponents, or are you really packing all that heat?
Well, I don't want to, you know, say it out too loud.
Because one time at Kerry Roops, I left my cup at home, and I had to borrow Blake Nash's, and it actually fit. So for us average guys, you know, if you could stop wearing that fiberglass canoe between your legs, we'd all very much appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe I'll just, like, you know, dim it down a little, make it a more comfortable fit.
Awesome. All right, Kyle. Well, we wish you nothing but the best. Any sponsors, plugs, anybody you want to shout out and thank?
Like to thank, you know, George Brito. He came down to MTC Saturday and gave me some advice and everything. Thank him. Reno, all my coaches, you know, Mike, Brad, Phil, Toon, all my teammates, the sponsors, you know, Layuna, Boston Pizza, Street Soldier, and Mike Marchand's Takedown Distribution. Yeah, always good people working for all of us. Oh, and one more, Fear the Fighter energy drink. That too. Can't forget that. All right, next up, the big homie Blake Nash. Coming off a long layoff from 2012, although coming off a big win off the high kick. Blake, 2012, here we are, 2014. Why the layoff?
Family, job, just so much stuff that, like, all at once. Like, I had a baby after my last win, and then I just wanted to do the father thing, enjoy that for a bit. And so you have, and there's nothing wrong with that. Family first is an important thing. The good news is you are back fighting Bryant Johnson? No, Jordan. Brian Jordan. My apologies. Bear Paw coming up October 18th. Now, initially I seen reports he was fighting Jeff Fuchs. I actually seen a poster, and then that idea got scrapped. He announced he was fighting you. Did you know there was a change in opponent, or did you just get announced that you were fighting Bear Paw? Well, I was originally supposed to fight him a few months ago in Sarnia, and I don't know what happened, but it didn't fall through. But I'm fighting him now and plan on taking his head off. So. He said on record, I read it on Facebook, he actually said, I'm fighting a real fighter in Blake Nash. I think that was somewhat of a shot at Fuchs, but at the same time, he was sending you a bit of respect and a compliment. So he's not at all taking you lightly, and nor should he. What does he bring to the table in your eyes? He's a big boy, like 6'8", walks around over 300 pounds. Like, he's a big boy, and I'm not a big guy. Like, I'm big, but I'm not tall like him. And I'm used to fighting taller guys, so it works out to my benefit, I think. One of the attributes that you bring to the table as a heavyweight, I've always noticed in the gym, is your speed. You seem to be a lot faster than a lot of these guys, in my opinion. Do you think that speed against a guy that big will be a factor and work in your favor? Oh, yeah. Well, I'm used to trying to keep up with lighter guys, like smaller guys, so it's a lot more work. So I'm used to kind of keeping a higher pace, more punches. Talk about your current training situation, where you're at with training, who you're training with, and how that's going for you. I'm doing pretty good, training a lot, and well, just working with I actually went and did some cage work with Chad and a couple other people. Did pretty well, and just about it, man.
Yeah, so you're just getting ready to go there and do the damn thing.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you have told us that there's going to be a knockout.
Oh yeah.
You're going to finish this
I
fight
try
on
for that all the time. I do
do.
not pity pat. Do not try to get points. I try to take someone's head off.
You do
with
it.
Every single shot.
Certainly an exciting thing for the fans. Everybody will look forward to that. These two guys right here, Kyle Prepolec, Blake Nash, going to war October 18th in London at the next PFC. So, guys, I want to thank everybody for coming. Lastly, Blake, I apologize.
Okay.
Is there anybody you want to thank? Plugs,
yeah, like
sponsors?
thank Boston Pizza, MTC, and sorry, NEC Productions out in London. That's it.
All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I want to thank my panel of guests for being here. We had a great show. I wish you all the best and success in your futures and your training forward. Thank you so much for tuning in.